Hello everyone, welcome to your bonus video on death and the dying process. In this video, we're going to take a look at psychopumps and other spirit guides for death. So, as you've learned in the previous video, psychopumps comes from Greek and it means guide of the soul. And psychopumps are spirit guides that help beings transition from the earth plane, this physical realm of existence, into the spirit world. And now that we have this more clear understanding on death, we've explored the dying process and discussed the wisdom and guidance death has to offer us throughout our entire life and all of our lifetimes. Let's take a closer look on how spirit guides can help expand our knowledge about death and the dying process even further. Now, personally, in my practice, I work with Archangel Metatron and Archangel Urbanox and the Phoenix as my go-to psychopumps in my shamanic practice, especially when I'm doing any compassionate depossession work or space clearing. Those are my go-to psychopumps. But in my shamanic practice and studies, I also work very closely with the animal kingdom and animal medicine. And animals are a very easy way for others to learn. Right? Because we all experience animals, we all have experience with animals, and it's something that is tangible to us, that is different than mythological creatures or spirit beings or angels, where we kind of all have a different experience with them. Animals is something that's a little bit more tangible for all of us, and so throughout my studies and exploration, I have chosen 4 animals that have shown themselves as among the many divine messengers of death, as some of the greatest teachers and guides for us as we explore death and the dying process. So, the first one I want to share with you is crane. Now, the crane is an ancient symbol of spiritual justice, honor, and longevity, who can help us to navigate through our own innate waters of our being, our intuitive abilities, and awakening new growth within the traditions and the rhythms of our life. The crane represents both the sun and is also the messenger for death. This contrast is significant because the crane teaches us that both is needed. Both life and death are a part of the same process, and the two go hand in hand. Crane always heralds the end or the change of old ways, so that a new expression can be born within them. Now, the crane is a wading bird, which means the crane has the capacity to comfortably move between water, land, and sky. It's different from a penguin who can navigate great in the water, but not so great in the land and not at all in the sky. Or a chicken who is great at maneuvering on the land and somewhat in the sky, but not so great in the water. Or a duck who is somewhat agile in the water, somewhat agile in land, but great in the sky. The crane is one of those birds that can comfortably move through the water, land, and sky, right? It has those really long legs that are skinny that can maneuver through the water. It can maneuver and run across the land, and it is phenomenal in the sky. Therefore, the crane can open up doorways between all of these worlds, all of the realms, and all of the times and traditions, bringing forth new spiritual experiences and revealing how death is merely just a transition, not an end. You know, one of the interesting things about death and the crane is that the crane will typically bear 2 eggs, but it will only raise 1. And, you know, that is just a transition. It's not the end of the crane. Crane still moves on in this cycle of life and invites death as part of this process, this cycle of life. And so crane welcomes death as part of its life cycle. And because cranes have this ability to walk with death and also has this ability to travel between the worlds, they can awaken memories of past lives. They can reveal how ancient we truly are and how the past is affecting our present time through understanding our karmic ties and our ancestry and our ancestral conscience and life issues and sacrifices that we may have made in the past or in past lives, or sacrifices that we are currently making, and how the laws of spiritual justice are working to seek balance within our life. So Crane is a great guide and teacher for us, and Crane awakens us to this ancient wisdom and to the ancient ones of the spirit world, reminding us that the ancient wisdom teachings and how to harness this knowledge is within the modern world and is available to us in our present life and is woven with all of our life experiences. So I love Crane because it has lots of wisdom and knowledge that goes much deeper than the bird that we see walking through the water or flying through the sky. Another great teacher for us is Vulture, or condor or buzzard, which is other types of vultures. And vultures are experts at soaring through the sky, and that signifies the divine power of vision, of seeing the world from a different perspective. And they also embody this divine power of disposing that which is dangerous to health and to life. They are an integral part of the disintegrative process of Mother Nature, which yields good from death and the destroying process. So their true power is in that of rebirth after death, right? They go and feed on this decay, this death, and they have the power to bring life from this decay. And, other animals, not many animals can eat such rotten death or decay, but the vulture has this ability and this capacity and takes this dying energy and is able to harness it in its own life and bring rebirth into the cycle of vultures and condors and buzzards around the entire earth plane. And so vultures, their true power is in rebirth after death. And like I've mentioned before, vultures have amazing eyesight and have this ability to spot a carcass from great distances. And when a vulture suddenly swoops down to the ground, others quickly follow. It calls all the other vultures that are also flying in the sky. They see this vulture fly down with their amazing vision, and they follow through because they know that they have found food. They have found a source of life. Therefore, Vulture represents this great, expansive spiritual vision and embody this leadership. Now, mythically, the vulture is linked to the ancient griffin. Now, griffin is a mythological creature and was often given features of a variety of animals, but was always a protector of nature and all of her spirits. So to encounter a griffin was to meet a guardian of the sky and the earth, and meant great magic and power would awaken within our own life. And vultures, like griffins, lend their immense strength and readiness for whatever task may be present. And those to whom vulture appears, it's a sign of becoming a guardian of the earth, of yourself, of the sky, of the world, just like the griffin, a guardian of nature. And once it appears in your life, it never leaves. Although it may seem absent at times, it's always soaring high above in their superconscious and makes its appearance when it's time for a rebirth and a lifting of the spirit, or a time of action and salvation that is weaving the physical and spiritual in a powerful new way and in a powerful new beginning. Vultures also have these ruffs on their neck where the body and head comes together, and this represents the bridge, the link between the physical and the spiritual worlds, the body and the higher mind, the body and the spirit, the physical and the spiritual. And one of the ruffs on the vulture is white, and this represents the bridge of light between the realms of the physical world and the spiritual world. Now, vultures prefer to live in remote environments, such as high in the mountains, and mountains are ancient symbols of spirit, and the animals that are found within them are naturally hold the wisdom to help us rise to the occasion of our own spiritual powers. To climb the mountain is to rise above the obstacles of life and to achieve the greatness of our spirit. And no animal reflects this principle more than the magnificent vulture. And they are symbols of rising above the limitations of life and of this spiritual evolution and communication with the spirit world. And their love of this remoteness often reminds us that we need times of remote isolation in order to come to terms with life. We need these times of solitude, of quiet reflection, of inward reflection and focus. And the vulture reminds us that there are times where we do need to separate ourselves from the world at large, and this is very important part of the journey to overcoming life's obstacles. And their appearance may also mean that we need the spiritual heights to lift us up from the heaviness of physical life, right? Physical life is not what we're used to. We're used to this free spirit and this oneness of all things and all knowing, and we come into this temporary separation in this physical form, and we're not used to carrying around this heavy body and all of the weight and density of this physical life. And so vultures remind us that we need spirituality to relieve us from this heaviness of physical life. And the vulture reminds us that in order to soar above all of the troubles of life, we need to do it with spirit. We need to invite spirit and spirituality into our life. And so the third being is yet another flying being, but it is not a bird. It is the bat. And bat represents transition and initiation, two very integral paradigms of death. Transition and initiation. And we talked about that in great depths in the death and dying video class. And so in ancient Babylonia, bats were represented as the souls of the dead. To the ancient Mayans, they were symbols of initiation and rebirth. Bats often are represented at the traditional shaman's death, which is the breaking down of the old self through intense challenges and facing your greatest fears and bringing death to some aspect of your life that is no longer serving you. And bats symbolize this promise of rebirth and coming out of the darkness as it emerges from the darkness of the womb-like cave. Now, if you're interested in learning more about the initiation process of a shaman, one of my favorite books is Of Water and Spirit by Malidoma Patrice Somé, which is one of my greatest teachers in my life, and I've never had the privilege of meeting him in flesh and bone, but I have read his books, and my teachers have worked with him one-on-one, and he shares his story of initiation in his book of Water and Spirit. And if you want to learn more about what this process is of the shaman's death or the shaman's initiation, this story will give you a glimpse into the West African, and more specifically the Dagara process of initiation, as they initiate each of their tribesmen into their community. And it's a fabulous compilation of stories of initiation as he himself was initiated into the tribe. And bats are a symbol of this process. And so if a bat has flown into your life, then it is time to face your fears and prepare for change. You know, a lot of us are afraid of change, but that challenges us to let go of the old in order to create the new, right? We can't create new with the old. We have to let the old go so that the new can emerge. And changes and transformations are nothing to be afraid of. They are blessings. And as we change within our own consciousness and change our perspective, everything that's reflected within the world also begins to change with this new perspective that we perceive the world. So, to fully understand and enjoy the blessings of change is to begin taking a renewed approach for your life. This means unlocking all of the powers within you to overcome any and all fears. That reminds you that you may be in unknown territory and you may feel lost. However, bats have excellent vision. And they also have a supersonic ability to hear and perceive the world around them. And they call us to trust our intuition and our clear senses. Not to just see what we can see in front of us, but to expand our senses into the unknown, using and strengthening our intuition and clear abilities as we give birth to something new and unfamiliar. Bat has listened in the darkness of night and has heard all of our fears, all of our worries, as well as all of our hopes and dreams, and assures us that this new version of your dream, this transition from dark to light, from lost to found, from death to rebirth, arrives with love. Bat asks you to trust the death process, which is morphing into something more meaningful and wondrous than before. Like humans, bats are mammals and are an important symbol for us because they are a mammal just like us, but they are the only flying mammal. So they reflect this ability to move to new heights with this transition in our life that we are faced with. Bats' flight may at first seem fluttery and jerky, but once we take flight, we may seem fluttery and jerky, but it is taking flight nonetheless. And from this new height, we will have this new perspective because we'll be able to see the world from an entirely new place. And so bats are akin to humankind and to all mammals. They are a symbol of taking flight in our life and giving us the ability to see things from a new perspective. Bats also sleep upside down, which has the ability to open us up to new horizons. I mean, imagine seeing the world from a different perspective upside down. And it opens us up to unexpected views that are about to manifest. When a bat hangs upside down, in that time, she is contemplating and dreaming of what she can become. And she reminds us to continue to dream in order to fulfill our destinies until the time comes to stop dreaming and to take action and to leave the womb of creation and to take flight. Bats are experts at maneuvering through the darkness of creation and help us with the ability to perceive hidden messages hiding in the shadows, to discern truth in any situation, and to develop the ability to trust our instincts and our inner voice and inner authority. Bat medicine is very powerful. It's emerging every night. Bat brings this message of rebirth. The cave is this womb-like, is this womb of Mother Earth, and the bat counsels you to fearlessly enter the darkness of transformation, letting the old die, spreading your wings to fly into new horizons, and to be reborn once again stronger and wiser than the day before. Now, birth is certainly painful, but there is no life without it. And Bat teaches us that we must go through death and rebirth over and over again as part of our journey. And lastly, the fourth animal that I'd like to share with you that holds greater wisdom and insight about death and the dying process is salmon. So I wanted to give you a creature that doesn't fly, or in fact, as we're about to find out, does do some flying. Each year, the salmon travels up the river against the current, leaping into the air and journeying to her birthplace to lay her eggs. There, she dies after having survived this perilous journey, avoiding danger at every turn, bears and wolves and all kinds of predators. And she lays her eggs, and then she dies. And this journey against the flow of the river of life represents the soul of the dead returning back to life, completing the circle of life and the circle of reincarnation. And so the salmon shows us this in her journey of life, her journey towards death. You know, she is actively choosing to knowingly go towards death, but in this journey, she knows that life is on the other side of this death. And so when the eggs hatch, the young salmon swim back down with the river's current back down to the sea, and one day they too will make this journey, continuing the cycle of life for salmon on Earth. And like the salmon, we continue to return until we have learned all that we needed to learn through the river of life. Each one of us must find our own path and keep going until we reach our transcendence. Salmon doesn't swim upstream to its death any time of the year. It is called upstream in divine timing, and so will occur our own divine exit from this physical plane. Salmon teaches us that even if there are difficulties, or we come upon waterfalls along the route, we should never give up. Keep taking leaps, even if you feel like you may not be capable of leaping through the air. The salmon is a fish. It thrives in the water. It can die if it's not in the water, and yet it finds this power, this courage, this fierceness, this ability to just leap through the air against all odds, against all of the current of water, leaping towards death, because it knows that this is part of the process. Death teaches us how to overcome, how to endure, and how to achieve the impossible. And death is merely part of the journey of life. Not to be feared, but rather to be honored. With heart, with soul, and with courage. For it is our true homecoming. And so, I hope these animals, salmon, bats, vulture, and crane, have awakened us into new possibilities within our life and have taught us how to walk with life and death right by our side without fear, but with courage and with the flow of the river of life. And I hope you guys have learned something new and have gained some new animal allies, some new power animals to help you with your journey of your soul. And until next time, bye guys.